Okay, I am just gonna do the pin. Hello, everyone. Uh, hello, Annie. So nice of you to join us. I, of course, have got my cup of tea as always, getting ready for this is of the first season. We're going to be back with other seasons. This is the last episode of the first season. Hey, Saroo.
Hi, yeah.
Hello.
I actually don't have a cup of tea. I've always thought I was doing these Beyond the Canon Writers Room wrong. You know, I never
Oh
had
my
my
goodness.
trusty cup of tea.
Today was a sprint. It's so funny how even when you don't have to leave your house, you're still kind of
It's crazy. It's crazy. Do you know, I
you
was
know
actually saying that to somebody the other
we have
day
my
to say
time.
that we've been staying at home, but I don't think I've ever worked as hard as I have.
Let me
Because
tell
then you're,
you.
it's a trap, Sim. It's a trap. Being at home just makes you work significantly more. The amount of meetings I'm cramming into one day would be physically impossible if I
Yeah.
had to go across town. It's so crazy.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I envy people because there are those people out there. You talk to them, they're like, oh, it's just been just so amazing just to stop for a
Totally.
while and just, take it easy. And you're like, what? Take it easy? How are you taking it easy right now? I mean, those that can do it, I guess, kudos to them, but I certainly have not stopped.
No, me
And no of
neither.
you,
Me
Saru,
neither.
no of you, Saru.
No, not at
Um,
all.
so this
But
is
how
kind of
are
bittersweet.
you?
You
It
know what? This is
is.
bittersweet. I feel that, we did this. We set BTC Writers Room up on Instagram. And, we've been just, it's felt really great, to have an idea, then to execute it. And actually, um, it's made us really rethink the model, so to speak. So, you know what? We're just going to take some time away to get some funding behind us, which would be amazing. And also to just restructure it, see if we can create this on multiple platforms. Most people have been requesting it. Not everyone's on Instagram. Instagram is, for some people, a really new thing. I was kind of new to Instagram myself. Do you know what I mean? I was a Facebook girl. I'm showing my age now. I kind of felt like I had Facebook. You
I
know what I
was
mean?
a little bit
Handle.
broken though, Sim, because I didn't
You
even
was.
have Facebook until like this
Oh,
year.
shame.
So for me, when it comes to
Oh, you
social
didn't.
media, I
That's
didn't. So
okay.
it was like, hey Annie, hiya. Honestly, I was not surviving on this platform. So we've learnt a lot, Sim and I,
We have learnt a
about
lot.
Instagram. About Instagram. But yeah, no, it is a little bittersweet, isn't it? Like
It is.
it's been really great to kind of have an idea, put it into practical application, see it and love it because we've had so much
Yeah,
fun and we've really
yeah,
enjoyed and learnt a great deal from doing these sessions. But yeah, we're gonna take some time, make them really good. Like we're gonna iron out
yeah,
all our kinks and really kind of see how we can elevate the writer's room,
yeah,
elevate it and make
definitely.
it even more spectacular.
And you know what? And what people probably can't see are the conversations that it sparked. So it sparked conversations in education, and it's also ignited other conversations as well. So this rights from what we're doing is not just what you see right now. There were several conversations that are taking place in the UK and outside of the UK too. So definitely stay tuned and just be patient with us while as Saru said, that we iron out kinks. But when we come back, we'll be coming back stronger and harder, guys.
Stronger, so much stronger. I'm actually a little excited to see what kind of,
Yeah,
like what the effort is going to manifest into. Like what
yeah,
it's going to look like when we come back, and and it's really exciting. Yeah,
it
yes.
is. It
I
is, and
can't wait.
also just for us to start having, different conversations as well. So, with publishing houses, we've been so lucky to have the support of Bloomsbury, Methuen Drama, and Playwrights Canada Press, who have
Yeah.
donated plays to us, and and our whole for those who may not know, you know, our whole intention was to help primarily students, because their education has been disrupted so severely right now, especially just with the current, just the recent news that's come out in terms of A-level grades. It was really our way to say, you know, use this time to sort of build your home library. And also it's a way for us to celebrate, you know, writers who we absolutely adore and treasure, and we want to really shine a big light on them and give them props for all of the work that they have created over the years. And also put a face to names as well. We might not know if the name is, but if you do know the names, just put a face to them too. And that's why we created BTC Writers, you know, to really celebrate our writers that have gone. Anything you want to add to that, Sabrina?
No, that is exactly it. That is exactly it. Yeah, we just really, I think as well for us, because I think for us as well, the journey has been just incredibly enlightening. We've learned of works that we didn't know. I mean, I know less than Sim, but I know more now than I definitely did at the beginning of this. And honestly, I've developed an even more intense love for these writers and they've been so candid and so forthcoming with their minds and, you know, their motivations and what inspires them, that it has been, it's just been an incredible 10 episodes. 10 episodes. Which is, we've had like 10 episodes of this gorgeousness, guys. That's a phenomenal number of writers, you know, and it's been so spectacular. And honestly, I think, yeah, our intention was to sort of show solidarity with the students, to let them know that obviously we saw them and we knew that this was a difficult time for them, and we just wanted to spend some time with them, and also just like Sim said, you know, celebrate these works and these writers with them. And you know, and we've been so grateful to everybody who's tuned in, or those who couldn't but have been watching afterwards. And you know, it's been really spectacular to see just how involved people have been with these works, and just how I mean, we always knew it was worthwhile. We always knew that what we were doing was a really good thing, and that it was definitely something that needed to be done. But it's just been so great because it's been kind of like a community that's been created out of what we're doing, and that has been, you know, very inspiring for us too. So yeah, it's been good to see.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, like Saroo said, the learning is continuous. You know what I mean? Like, even, you know, if you have, you know, research plays, it's just continuous, and that's why we ask the writers to share with us, you know, free plays they wish they would have read before they entered into the professional industry, because look, Sabrina's on the show today. Sabrina is gonna blow our minds. I know she's gonna. Now, this is somebody who I haven't met before, but I definitely know of her work. She may not know this, but I have been a fan of her work.
She's been geeking out all week. She's been geeking out. She's like, oh yeah, Sabrina.
Oh yeah, Sabrina's coming on the show. You don't understand. You know, no, I've actually just really just adored this woman from a distance, and she doesn't know, you know, I feel like that little stalker that's just like, what's Sabrina doing? And whenever I hear that she's doing something, or she's collaborating in, you know, so many like extraordinary ways with her art, I'm just all there. Like, I just think that she is a groundbreaker, really. And she's somebody who really just stay true to herself. And she's just such, I don't know if she recognizes like how much of a powerhouse she actually is. But yeah, I could go on. Look at me, I'm like fangirling Sabrina. When she might not come on now. She might just be like, maybe not. Maybe I won't go on that show with him. But yeah, so we're gonna bring Sabrina on, and we're gonna just hear her talk about her work, and like Saroo was saying, like her inspirations, what motivates her, you know, and maybe she can share with us something she's working on right now as well. And we've also got her play to give away. So the plays we're giving away today, Saroo, this is our last one. We're doing a bundle, another bundle. So we have got, yeah, put it the right way, Saroo. We've got Sabrina's play, which is Chef. This is an amazing play. Like, this play, look, the girl is fire. You know what I mean? Like, Sabrina is fire. For those who don't know get to know. Okay, so this is our play giveaway. But in addition to Sabrina's play, we're also going to be giving away a museum in Baghdad and also fireworks as well. So these are the what are the sound effects? We actually need to come back with sound effects. I think we need to feel energy, right? So we're going to be giving. So this is the bundle that we're going to be giving away today. So don't be polite, because you know what, we're going to have a little wait before we come back with the second season. If I was you, I would throw your name in the hat and be like, I want that bundle. So Saroo, if you don't win the bundle, what can they do, Saroo?
Well, if you do not win the bundle, it is not the end. It is okay. Because what we have also done is, because of the wonderful, wonderful people at Bloomsbury, Matthew and Drummer, Oberon Books, and Playwrights Canada Press, you can actually go to www.beyondthecanon.com for more information on how to utilize the discount codes. So for Bloomsbury and Oberon Books, it is BTC 2020 at checkout, and it will give you 30% off all of these books, all of it, 30% off. And it's 45% off if you want ebook versions, which is amazing. So you can definitely access that. There's more information on all the giveaways we've given away in the past, and handy little links that will take you directly to the pages so that you can then utilize the code. And at Playwrights Canada Press, it is 25% off their entire stock. So have at it, folks. Like, honestly, it is a spectacular, spectacular opportunity. And who doesn't love a discount? Like, Sim, who doesn't love a discount?
I'm all for the discount. So thank you so much, Saroo. Like Saroo said, if you missed out on any of that information, of course, we always share the live Instagram podcast that we do. But do visit our website, www.beyondthecanon.com. Okay, without further ado, let's bring on Sabrina. I'm so excited. Saroo, cheerio, my friend.
Cheerio, Sim.
I will speak to you later. All right. Take care, Saroo. Bye. Okay, so I'm excited. Oh my God, I hope I haven't scared her away. So we're going to bring in Sabrina. I really hope I haven't scared her away, because I am a fan of her work. Sabrina!
Hi! Oh my gosh, you two are cracking me up. So funny.
You know what? Oh, Sabrina, I'm so excited that you're with us, man. You don't understand.
I'm excited as well to meet you. I'm also a fangirl. Like, your anthologies that you've done, I mean, number one, aesthetically, I have never seen an anthology of monologues that actually looks nice. You know, they're always like a little bit, there's a picture of a person on the front and whatever. But when I saw that book design, I was like, oh, wow. And then, do you know what? Honestly, that is the first time in my creative life, maybe I've seen it before on some sort of administrative place, but I don't think so. I think it's the first time in my whole life that I'd ever seen Black, Asian, Latinx and Middle Eastern like put together on a front cover, relating to anything really. And so I want to thank you for that, because that was quite an amazing moment to see, because I hate like BAME and I hate all those sort of acronyms that have like no specificity to them. And you did that a long time ago, really, considering like where people are at with these things. And yeah, so I'm a fan. I just wanted to say thank you for doing that.
Oh, thank you, Sabrina. You know what? Yeah, you know, the funny thing was that the first one book was just was the actor on the front, because it was done. Oh. It was really like it was my first time doing a monologue anthology, and I really wanted to use like actual, you know, upcoming actors, and so that was important to me. However, the second book, the first book was with Oberon. The second book was with Bloomsbury, and if anyone's gone into, no shade on Oberon, but if anyone's gone in, and now obviously Bloomsbury owns Oberon now, but like if anyone's gone into like a Bloomsbury office, you just feel like that I made it. Like I feel like I'm now a author, right? It was very. I mean, you know what I'm talking about, Sabrina.
Yeah. It's all
very
those
grown up. It's very plush.
Yeah, dark wood
Oberon at the
panels.
time was like a shed at like the back of someone's house. Do you remember? Like that.
I've never been there. I never went to Oberon. I'd been with Metuin from like the start, and so yeah, I definitely felt that like, oh my gosh, like everything, like you feel like someone's going to tell you to leave because it's all that like dark wood paneling, and yeah, it's all very, very posh and stuff. But
yeah, it definitely feels like a sort of a Carol Bradshaw situation. Of you, but the people are lovely. They're so down to earth. It's just
oh yeah,
like going up the steps, going into the. Anyone that's been in there, you know.
yeah. Well, that I mean, just that area and that. I think haven't they changed offices now? I think, but yeah, anything in that area is just like so. There's so much history there, and it's a history that's like really problematic, you know. Like, but you still bring with it like excitement. It's like, you know, Sloane Square area and stuff. Like, I love the Royal Court so much, and but the area itself, yeah, it's just, it's like, but it still feels, I can't anyway, like separate myself from the excitement of like, oh, it's Sloane Square and it's like, you know, King's Road, and oh, that's so exciting. But you know, ultimately it's like these places are, the way they became the places they are is not a very positive thing or particularly exciting. So trying to in one space of your life, like say we're going to try really hard to like decolonize, but then on the other side be like really excited to still go to these places, be part of these places, be accepted in these places, is just a sort of constant battle really, in especially, well, anywhere in the UK, but I think especially in particular pockets of London where, you know, that history is just not history, it's like right there all the time, in terms of who built something, which family something's named after, who still owns that particular building or that particular street. So yeah, anyway, sorry, I haven't even...
No, I love that. This is why I love you, because I just love the way you see things, right? Do you know what I mean? Because I think it can be quite problematic, to be honest with you, like the, you know, the Royal Court being placed where it is. But like you said, there is another way of looking at that as well, in terms of like who then enters into Sloane Square, you know what I mean? And Sloane Square is really poor. I think that's a really just like a great way just to view those places. And you're right, I was surprised by the amount of property that's just vacant in Sloane Square. Do you know? Like it is outstanding. When you think about homelessness and you see the amount of just like these buildings that no one lives in. Like I went to an event, like a drink, sorry, I could talk, but I went to this event and it was like a drinks reception. And we walked in and it was like, oh, like this, it was like a labor event or something. And it's like this, the house that you're in, we don't live there. We just own it. I was like, oh, so you just use it for just like special occasion? Like, what is this?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean,
and
recently...
that was right in Sloane Square.
Yeah, and at the moment, I mean, it's very strange, isn't it? Like going on the overground particularly, and like being able, or any of the tube that's not under a tunnel, and kind of going past office blocks, massive ones that have just been built, or old ones just so empty, and some of them still have lights on, but there's nobody in there at all. And you just think, oh my goodness, like 6 months ago, that battle for space, like, oh, you know, someone's got a rehearsal they need to do, and does anyone... I was rehearsing the last piece of theatre that I did, which was in the last kind of week when theatres were open, at the Bunker. We were rehearsing in a like disused office space in Leicester Square. And, you know, that felt like golden space, like, oh my gosh, because it was part of like Theatre Delicatessen, and the Bunker had used it with them. But that felt so amazing to have that in such a central location. And now it's like almost every office is like that. But there's no bloody place to rehearse, so no one can even use it anyway. No, there is. Obviously, people are rehearsing things, but it's just there's so much unused space at the moment. And it's really strange trying to configure, like, well, what was it all needed for anyway? Because if everybody is somewhere now, obviously not in terms of homelessness, that is atrocious with like so much empty space. There should be zero homelessness. but outside of that, it's still like, what did everybody need all of that land for? Like, they didn't really need all of these offices, all these people who've been struggling to rehearse and stuff. Like, you know, it just makes it all seem so ridiculous.
Oh, definitely. But we've done the thing that I always do, and if you've seen any of these episodes, I always want to just jump in. I feel like you're like me. We'll just jump in the deep end.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And I haven't actually introduced you properly, so let me quickly just refer to the short bio that you gave me. Of course, you've done a lot more than what's written here, but you are a writer and performer. And if you haven't seen Sabrina's work, definitely jump on YouTube and get to see that. Her most recent theatre show was A History of Water in the Middle East, and that was at the Royal Court in 2019. And then her most recent publications as anthologist include Smashing It. I love that title, Smashing It, Working Class Artists on Life, Art and Making It Happen. I mean, we definitely got to talk to that. And Poems from a Green and Blue Planet. And you're currently resident at Shakespeare's Globe Theatre and at the TV and film company House Productions. So Sabrina, there's a lot there, girl. So let's just start with and correct me if I'm wrong, because this was on your Wikipedia page, and we know how Wikipedia gets down. It's not always factual, but British Egyptian. British Egyptian poet. Okay, good. Playwright, performer, and writer from South London. But you were raised in London and in Cairo. Correct? Okay, cool. I want to make sure, because you know.
Yeah, of course.
But how is that like? How has it influenced your work? How has it influenced how you've navigated and accessed the arts?
I think, like, living in two countries when you're young, kind of two countries that are really different from each other as well, it always well, for me anyway, it's meant that I haven't had the same sort of imposter syndrome that I think a lot of other people who come from a background where you wouldn't necessarily work in the arts often feel, because kind of like the only way to survive is just to like get in there and just start I don't know, just get on with people, like just get into a place where you've never been. I had been there. I don't really know how to explain it, but I just think that it made me, having to constantly like move between two really different cities, probably just helped me move between worlds when I was getting into the arts, and not feel as, I did definitely feel intimidated, but not as intimidated as I think I would have done if I hadn't have had that experience of like cross-city culture, and kind of having to just be always aware that there's like a part of myself that works better in London and there's a part of myself that works better in Cairo, and you know, you can then you kind of just end up doing that as well in the work world, and be like, oh yeah, that's not the part that I'll bring to the theatre group. And that is the, you know, and as the years have gone on, obviously those sort of masks and whatnot like end up just fall into the wayside, and you kind of just end up being like, oh, this is who I am, so that's that. But in the initial stages, I think it helped in that way. And then obviously it just helps in terms of like what I'm interested in, and the characters that I write, and always like to write characters who have a mixed heritage of some kind, even if it's not the same as mine, because I do think it's not something that, even though it's so in terms of a percentage, it's huge, it's something that isn't really given to characters very much. And I find that quite interesting. Like, why is it more difficult to have a mixed character of like somebody who's got three different heritages, and that is part of the character? That is, you know, they always have to choose one. It's always got to be like, this is where their parents are from, and that's that. Like, anything that complicates things storytelling wise, to me, is good. Like, I don't understand why you would not want a really complicated story. But in the theatre world, especially theatre and TV and film, that's felt like a real struggle to actually get people to go, yeah, but they don't actually have to be like Egyptian with just Egyptian parents who've immigrated to the UK, and they're struggling with like, how do you balance those two things. I mean, they could be like, which I know people who are like Egyptian, Peruvian, British, you know, like they could just have this whole world of heritage, and like that can feed into a story, and that can affect how they deal with something. And and then it never really worked. People are like, oh, who would we cast, and you know, how would that, I think that would just be too confusing for an audience. And I'm like, well, that would be confusing for me, and I'm an audience member, so I don't know why it would be confusing for anyone else. And obviously, again, as time goes on and you get older and more experienced, you kind of just do it anyway, and don't really care that much who's telling you.
Do you feel like those conversations are changing, or do you think? Do you know what I mean? Because we can see there are some changes. Obviously, things are pretty slow, and we know that. But do you feel like just that conversation around characters and where and their backgrounds, has that changed at all, or do you feel there's always that constant pushback once you get into the room?
I mean, it's hard because I have, like, the last couple of years, I'm in a really different position where people like have gained a trust, I suppose, in that I can deliver something that's going to sell tickets, if you want to put it crudely, or like that it's going to be something that's thought out with a particular team, and it's, you know, so they are less likely to really question like those sort of decisions. But so I can't say accurately whether this time has changed or whether it's just changed for me. But I do think that when I talk to younger people who are, well, not just young people, but people who are still in a different point in their career, they are still feeling that pushback quite a lot. And it's a pushback that I'm not sure where it comes from, if it's like a marketing team pushback, in that, you know, if people are being very candid, which they're not a lot of the time, but I think they're trying to be more. If people can go, oh, this is like an Asian play, or this is a black play, then they'll go, oh, we kind of know where we're going to go with that marketing wise, which is obviously like, you know, I don't understand what the hell that means, but that is what sometimes people will say. But anything outside of those two like vast groups of like completely different people, they're like, we're not really sure how we would market it, you know. So like having an Armenian play, they're like, well, I don't know what that would mean in terms of like who we would, like, what would our target audience be for an Armenian play. So, you know, I do think that those kind of conversations still go on, even though they're really like ridiculous. And I'm not sure that until all of the internal teams in a venue or an organization have like really and truly become much more representative, then the art that gets made and the characters that get pushed through are never going to be what people want them to be, because like in terms of representation, because it's just impossible, you know. Like if you've seen, obviously I'm assuming you've seen like these stats that are coming through with the pull up or shut up initiative, and it's like, a lot of the stages have got almost 50-50 in terms of like the actors who are on the stage. A lot of them have got decent figures in terms of the writers that they're working with, but once you look into the management, once you look into who's actually working in the rooms, who is deciding all these things, who's doing the marketing, who's doing that, it's almost like a lot of them are 100% like white, and in my experience also quite posh. So there is definitely a difficulty there, and a clash in terms of like, how can you possibly be championing a really wide variety of work when that area of stuff is not changing at all. But obviously the last few months have shown that people are aware of this now, and hopefully it will change. But
I agree. I founded an organization called Artistic Directors of the Future, which aims to diversify the number of artistic leaders in the arts. But to be honest with you, what the challenge with that has been that we are focused on obviously boards, exec level. But I know that in terms of literature, the can't even speak now. Why can't I speak? In terms of who the literary managers, you know, in organisations, in terms of sort of who's responsible for casting and marketing, you know, that section also needs to be looked at, right? And I agree. I think there's one, you know, we can only do so much. We're a very, very small team, and we've got our work cut out with just trying to change who runs these buildings, and who people that are governing the buildings as well. But there's definitely needs to be more attention in terms of that area. And so anyone that's listening, if you're interested, get in touch, because I think that it really does take a village. It really takes those people who feel as passionate about creating those changes in order for them to happen. Look at me, did a bit of a plug.
Yeah,
but,
no,
but
well,
I think it's important. It takes more
definitely,
than, you know.
And on that, like, big up to Pull Up or Shut Up,
Yeah,
but forgetting those figures out there, because I think once, you know, we do, it's a capitalist society. Once you have numbers, even though, yes, that should not be what it all comes down to, but once people can see actual percentages in front of their face, it's just becomes much easier to go, this isn't actually in our imagination, and we're not actually like making a big fuss about nothing. Like, this is a serious thing, and you know, you have to show us a significant numerical difference next time. And so, you know, I can't believe it took what it took, and it took that long, but obviously, thank goodness. And also, in terms of your, thank you, by the way, for I'm the last person in this series. So
I know.
I can't believe it. But yeah, like, I think, I don't know what your fundraising plans are, another conversation another time, but I think people would be really behind, like, supporting this as well, just as, like, you know, artists themselves and people who work in arts kind of donating towards, like, the work that you're doing, and to try and get this to a wider audience, not this conversation, but, you know, like, what all the work that you're doing behind the scenes in terms of, like, pushing the Canon out.
Yeah, definitely. We should definitely talk as well, Sabrina. I'm going to be hitting you up, girl. There's a few things that are happening behind the scenes that I would love you to be a part of, if you have the time, of course. But so for those who don't know your work, how would you describe your work?
A little bit of everything. No, like, one reviewer. I mean, reviewing is a whole other thing. I love reading reviews.
You do?
And yeah, I do.
There's very few writers that love
know.
reading reviews. What is
No,
that
I love
about?
it. I know. I don't know. It's really weird. I think it's just because I genuinely think, like, almost like I get so bored in the theatre that I, like, think it's amazing that any that people have, like, such nice things to say about theatre stuff, and then when somebody has bad things to say, I just think, if it's written well and, you know, it's thought out, it's really great to have that sort of I do see it as a conversation. I mean, it's a little bit of a one-sided conversation, I suppose, but it is a bit of a dialogue, in that you've given a piece of work and they've given a response, and within that is things that you learn from, for sure. And I have no problem with somebody, like, absolutely hating what I've written or made, and it doesn't bother me.
Just this critic that you go, I want to read their response to this, or is it just generally speaking?
No, not really. I mean, there's some that I, like, read for absolute jokes. Like, if anyone from, you know, like, what's his name? Quentin. I don't know, like, you know, those posh sort of Times and Telegraph people. Yeah, their, like, ways of being pissed off with a piece of work, I think linguistically is just absolutely bloody amazing. And I just think that is so cool, like, that you have actually gone to those lengths of poetry to cuss somebody with. So yeah, there's definitely that battle MC part of me that loves that, and kind of in my head I'm like, yes, sick, if you were here we could just, like, battle it out with little cussing. So for me, it's definitely part of the.
That is brilliant. That's brilliant. You know what? That should be like a way that we give out tips to writers or anybody who's having their shows reviewed. Like, how can you just sort of like armor yourself? Like, come on, and let's see the battle. Let's see what words you use.
Exactly. Yeah, because if they don't
brilliant.
use good ones, then you just dismiss it. And then also, I think, I think the way that I feel about that stuff is that in terms of actual proper advice for writers, seeing as this is the writer's room, is that I just have never taken the good ones that seriously, and therefore the bad ones just don't impact that much. I've taken the good ones in the same way as the bad ones, like, okay, what can I learn from this? That's interesting that's what they liked about it, because I didn't even think that was a thing, or stuff like that. And then I think when social media obviously pushes you to, and ticket sales and stuff push you to, especially with like Edinburgh and that, to like really just focus in on those good reviews. But it's a bit like, if you allow that to affect you and like make you feel great about your work, then the bad ones are just going to pull you straight back down again. It can't be oh yes, someone's just written Quentin Letts, that's it.
Poetic racist, you missed the last bit there.
Oh yeah, the poetic racist. Oh my gosh, amazing. Oh, so funny. But yeah, anyway, so all of this was from your question, how would you describe your work? And somebody called I've forgotten, Tom Lambert, I think. Tom Lambert, who works at the worked at the Observer, and he had called Chef, actually. He was like, it's something, I can't remember the sentence, but complex simplicity was basically in that sentence. And I read that word combination and I thought, oh, that is what I want my work to be, is like complex simplicity. Like, I never want anything to be particularly difficult to understand or anything like that, but I also want it to obviously have like enough layers that it is complex at the same time. So that's pretty much how I would like to think that I try to do stuff. It doesn't always work, but
I think it does, but that's just me. So I love your form of poetry, and just love how you've used poetry over the years, and just like wondered, like, where did it all begin? Like, why poetry? How did that come to be? I know that for me, I started to write poetry just a way of expressing myself from at a young age, but I just sort of wonder. I mean, I'm nowhere near your levels, okay? But I just wonder, like, where did it start for you?
I mean, I think I wrote a poem for like Blue Peter.
Oh, really?
Like they used to do these little competitions, and I wrote a poem for them. And I'd always just liked writing and reading poems. I moved around like so much when I was a kid that I just used to. I don't know, my mum would just make announcements as to like where we were going next, and I would just be like, okay, that's fine, because I've got my book. So like I'm just like in the back of the car, or like on whatever form of transport, just like reading all the time. So really the writing part of it didn't come like much, it came much later than the reading. I just used to read all the time. And poetry, I liked reading poetry, but I liked reading everything really. Not so much non-fiction. That kind of has only come really in the last few years. I was never really that into non-fiction when I was younger. So then I just started writing poems like all of my life, and then I don't know, then what happened? I just started trying to be a fashion journalist. That didn't really work, because they were like, you're supposed to be doing a report on like some fashion show, and you've written a poem. And I was like, I haven't written a poem.
Oh my God, I would love to read them.
This is definitely a poem in like journalism terms, because everything's got to be very straight and like written in a really sort of clear to understand, informative way. And I don't know what I was doing, but anyway, it prompted me to go, okay, cool, I'll go and actually write some poems. And then I did that, and I performed them at like open mic nights, because at that time there was only like one open mic night a week in London. I think, well, pre-corona there was like 10 a night, and just would go there and do them, and people would be nice, and so just carry on, and just went from there really. And that's how theatre started as well, because my poems were like quite often very character based, whereas the majority of the open mic stuff was very personal. And because I was doing characters, people were like, "Oh, you should try writing for theatre." And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's a good point." And so that's how that happened as well.
Ah, okay. I wondered how it started to sort of seep into the theatre world. But I'm currently reading the Jay-Z book, Made in America. I don't know if you've come across it. This book.
Oh, shit. I didn't even know he'd written a book.
Yeah. Well, it's not.
Oh,
actually
he hasn't written a book.
He hasn't
no.
really. Yeah, it's kind of like a critique of his work.
Okay, interesting.
And yeah, it's by Michael Eric Dyson, and the foreword is by Pharrell. And as I was reading the foreword, you were just on my mind, because it said a line that in terms of like speaking about Jay-Z's work, it spoke about painting pictures with poems, and in terms of like how you use poetry, really, like in my mind, it's really elevated way in terms of like how we see it, how we hear it, and how we experience it, and how you've managed to, in terms of our experience of your poetry, of your art, you know, we see it on TV, you know what I mean? Like we see it. I think it was like composers, was like musicians or something that compose work inspired by your poetry. And I just wondered, like, how much of that has been sort of intentional, or like, how did that come to be that your work has now almost kind of similar to Debbie Tucker Green, I would say, in terms of we're starting to see a real blurring of like it's, or you know, moving from sort of open mic, entering into sort of like, it's just like water. It just enters into all of these different places in such a seamless way, in a way that you say, well, of course it should be there, you know. But just like, how for you has that been in terms of your trajectory, you know, and how much of that was intentional?
Yeah, it's difficult to know like how much intent was behind it. I think because I started when writing, like properly writing or trying to write, when I was about 24, which was, it sounds really young now, but to me, but at the time was really old compared to all the people that I was working with, because they were all like still at uni, or like they knew from like 18 that they wanted to be a playwright or a poet or this and that, and I'd never really thought that that's what I was going to do. So I felt like I was coming into it quite late. And so once stuff started to get traction, like sort of 27, 28, I kind of just was like, right, I've got to do everything. Like anything that comes to me, I will just say yes and I'll do it and we'll see what happens. And then also there was the added thing of like, just if something was paying me, like I was not going to say no, even though I had like no idea about opera, or I had like no idea about dance. Like if this person has got like £500 for me to do this thing, then I'm going to do it. And then from what happened from that was just I guess finding the things that you genuinely like to work with, and yeah, just realizing that all these boundaries that people set up are, like most boundaries, not most boundaries, but most borders, are just a load of rubbish, and that, you know, there's no reason why like you should stick to this one genre unless you love it and you want to, and that's all you ever want to do. I don't really understand why it's not more fluid. I mean, that could be said for pretty much every aspect of life, but you know, like that narrow boxing in of genre and writers and where they're allowed to belong is certainly reflective of quite an oppressive society in terms of expression and who people are allowed to be. So I guess in a way, now that I think about it with much more retrospection, it feels like maybe there was some sort of subversion going on there, some sort of rebellion in terms of being like, actually, no, you can't tell somebody that they can only do this or they can only do that. And yeah, and I think like the downside of that is that obviously it's hard to be doing loads of things and then really like think really, really deeply about what it is you would do in that particular genre and what you would like to do in that particular genre, without like immersing yourself fully in like what everyone else is doing and the academic things that have been written about it, you know, it takes a lot of effort. And so, yeah, sometimes I just think, oh, I just want to spend 1 year just doing like one thing and like really properly like immerse myself in everything to do with that, either subject or genre. But I don't know, who knows.
What would that be, out of curiosity? Do you have, I was just going to ask you as well, like who would be, or you know, or what genre in terms of collaboration would you love to sort of fully sort of immerse in, just to see how your work sort of responds to?
It would probably be a fiction. I think I would just love to spend a whole year like just reading fiction books and then writing them. But I might just say that because it's the thing that I haven't done. So maybe that's why. But yeah, I think it would be difficult to do fiction, like just fiction, because I'm so used to collaboration. And fiction is probably like one of the most, fiction and poetry, you know, you quite, as writers, you're quite doing it on your own for a long time, unless obviously you work with your editor and whatever, but it's very different to writing for theatre or TV or film, which is just constant collaboration. So I think maybe I just am looking for a period of time where I'm not collaborating and just see what that is like.
Yeah. And that, someone said yes, so I think that they're saying do it. You've got people that are already waiting for you to do fiction. So yeah, we will be waiting for that, Sabrina. And that's what I love about you. I just love the fact that you're just constantly just looking for, you know, just new ways really to sort of stretch your art form, new ways to sort of reinvent yourself. And I just think that's really super dope, really inspiring, especially if other people sort of listen to this, and to know that if their first love is poetry, just in terms of the possibilities are endless, you know what I mean? It's limitless. It's really based on your own perception of that sometimes, you know what I mean? And just to have sort of more of a sort of an open perspective, really, in terms of like where all of these things, you know, can land. And you know, and you know, definitely check out sort of Sabrina's page. It just gives you a real perspective of the work that she's done, and even though you I feel like there's times for collaborations and there's times just to be yourself, and there's times to explore your own work, and then that's really, really important. I want to just talk to just you as an activist, if I may call you that. I really feel like your voice is so strong when it comes to human rights issues, and when it comes to, you know, specifically gender equality, feminism, when it comes to even talking about sort of the working class communities as well. And I guess this somewhat relates to your book, for anyone that's just joined. I'm just referring to Smashing It. Working. I love the fact that you have to put energy into that word. You know what I mean? You can't just be like smashing it. It's like smashing it.
So many of the younger people that I know, like, you can't call a book smashing it. Do you know what that means? Like, that means like having sex with someone. And I was like, no, it doesn't. Like, listen, that no one was ever saying that when I was younger. So I'm just going to pretend that's not happening. Right. And I'm just going to call it that anyway. Thank you.
And that's me and you both, because I'm just saying it like, you're just killing it, you're smashing it. Like,
I was like, no idea about that. So obviously that's fine. If they're expecting something else, they'll open the pages and be disappointed.
I know, right?
Anyway, sorry, carry on.
Yeah, but just in terms of how that's shown up in your work, really, and what sort of motivated you to be such an activist and somebody whose work is so sort of politically charged, you know what I mean? And I just think that that's so, you know, there's some writers, I think, especially in the UK. I'm currently in the US. I'm in Chicago at the moment, and
give that away. Hi, Chicago.
Hey, Chicago. And I would say that, you know, that the political feel like urgency and messaging is so strong, you know, overseas, and like to see your work as well parallel to that, like just feels so extraordinary, and also just really, again, this super inspirational. Like, I just kind of wonder where that charge has come from.
Oh, thanks. Well, I mean, I don't. In some ways, I think, you know, all art to an extent is activism. If you're like trying to just tell a story against what else is being told, or you're trying to document something which is otherwise not being documented, or being documented in a very narrow or false way. So, you know, a lot of artists are activists sometimes, but I think I know so many actual activists who literally spend their entire life like on the front line. I hate that analogy, but you know, the front line of activism and campaigning and stuff, that I feel like it's a massive cheat to call myself that. But in terms of people having politically charged work, it's not a conscious decision. I just don't understand like why anybody would not have politically charged work. Like, I don't.
Neither do I. But there are some people who, if you call them that, they'll be like, no, that's just not. They don't want to take on, you know, that title. They don't want to, you know. I think now it's going to be interesting to post this time how many people kind of take on more of the charge than they've ever done before in their work. To be honest with you, Sabrina, like, I don't think that's I used to think that was a given. And then I actually realized that my experience, like, I was raised in Green. We had like BNP riots, like right sort of around the corner from where we lived, you know, and I think that your upbringing and just what you're exposed to, you know, at a younger age, like I have to go back and even sort of look at my family line to be like, why am I so passionate enough to, you know, really take on the fight? And I don't think that every artist takes on the fight the same way. No,
and I don't think they have to. But I think
they don't.
You know, it is. I do think that there's also been just historically, especially, well, I think all over, but I can only really speak for the UK, in that there has been an acceptance of work that almost purposefully rejects any sort of political urgency. And like you say, it will be interesting to see if that continues, as hopefully things change in terms of who's in charge of stuff and what people as audience members are actually looking to consume and to engage with. Because I just think that time for, like, you know, it's going to a theatre and like sitting and watching people have a dinner, even if there is like political undercurrents to that dinner. You know, for me, I just don't. I just think, you know, we had a lot of that. We've had that. It's had a lot of time to do what it needed to do and say what it needed to say. And now maybe if you want to do that, you can watch loads of really amazing TV shows where a whole group of writers have spent a really long time crafting the most perfect dinner scene and doing something fantastic with that. Theatre as a live art form, I feel like it. In this moment, it should always be pushing past that level of comfort. It should always be going like, you want to see a dinner party scene, that is not what you're fucking going to see. Like, you know, it's just so comfortable for people, because we expect from. Sorry, my battery's running really low, but I know we haven't got much time left anyway. So yeah, I think that the only way, writing is really hard and making art is really hard, and it's really, you know, it just takes a lot, and you don't really get that much back for it in terms of like money or anything like that, you know, until a certain stage potentially. So you're doing it because you have to do it, and there's an urgency inside to do it, and I can only feel that about things that I want to see being discussed out in the world. And that doesn't always mean they're like major profound things. Like, I did a play about garage music because I just thought at that time I didn't feel like it was being put up the ranks of British culture enough, and I wanted people to just discuss it. I wanted it to have an article in the paper, and like for people to discuss what garage meant to them, and part of that is like, okay, cool, let's do a play about it, but there wasn't like explicitly political, do you know what I mean? So yeah. I think I think there's probably like political reasons if you dig down deep enough to most pieces of theatre, but it's just like, I think maybe that digging needs to be a bit more less arduous, and it's just a little bit more at the surface.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel that way about your work. I really think that it does stir up conversation in a way that I think does feel intentional in your work. It really kind of jumps off the page. It really leaves it kind of simmers in your mind, you know, after you've encountered engaged with your work. Do you know what I mean? And I think that that's something that I'm sure I'm not the only person who feels that way. We're gonna have to jump off, but could you come back on? Because I would really love to hear what free plays that you would wish that you had read before you entered the industry. Is that okay? We're going to just have
yeah, that's all right.
On again.
Yeah, sure. I've got to go about 10 past though. Is that all right?
That's perfect. Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be really quick. All right then, guys. So
Bye.
come back in. All right then. Take care.